Thank you, Senator Capito. Senator Cardin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for convening this hearing, and thank you very much for your attendance and your service, your public service. I would hope that all members of Congress want clean air and clean water, but we're judged by our actions, not by our words. And each Congress has an opportunity to add to that, and certainly not to take away from the protections that we provide for clean air and clean water. Clean water is vital to our economy, and I think we all can acknowledge that. A child who has suffered from lead poisoning as a result of not having safe drinking water, that child will not reach his or her full potential. And it's tragic for the individual, and it's tragic for our economy. The number of premature deaths due to the quality of water, the number of missed days at work because of tending to public health issues, the number of missed days at school, the importance of industry having sources of clean water for their products. All that adds to the economy. And as we're all bragging about being in Appalachia, my state, of course, has in the western part of the Appalachia region. And I've enjoyed camping out with my children and skiing and just enjoying one of the most beautiful places in our country. And yes, recreation use depends upon clean water and clean air, and that's a huge part of the growth of the economic opportunities in the Appalachia region. So all that cries out for you carrying out your responsibilities for clean water. Surface, underground, or mountaintop removal all have risks involved in our environment, and we need to deal with that. So, yes, I also want clean water from our streams in the Chesapeake Bay, as many of those waters end up in the Chesapeake Bay of Maryland and in this region. So my first just question is, it's difficult to repair the damage once it's done, and I'd like you to comment about that. In mountaintop removal, we've seen major damage to streams. Once it's caused, what are the challenges in trying to clean up the results of the damage to our streams?
Once you've caused the pollution, typically it is a long-term pollution problem. You cannot eliminate it, and it often costs way more money to treat that water than to prevent the pollution from occurring in the first place. We are aware of some studies that were done where in the mountaintop mining they filled in the valleys, and some of these valley fills are decades old and they're still discharging high levels of total dissolved solids. The only way to take the total dissolved solids out is a reverse osmosis treatment system. The one of which I'm aware of was from underground mines in West Virginia. It cost over $200 million to build and $9 to $18 million a year to operate. If you're mining coal, you can't build too many of those and continue to stay in business. Selenium gets elevated on a lot of streams. To build the bioreactors for those seleniums cost a couple of $1 million, is my understanding, in order to take out, and you have to constantly maintain it. It is a whole lot better to prevent the problem. The example I can give most effective is from my experience in Pennsylvania with acid mine drainage. Until the state was able to predict so you could prevent it, a lot of companies went out of business because they couldn't afford to treat the water, the pollution they created.
So in the regulatory process, what are you doing to preserve and protect buffer zone protections from mining operations?
The existing 100-foot provision is still going to be in the rules. By creating the definition for material damage to the hydrologic balance, that creates a standard so that people can know what they're measured against. By creating the baseline of the stream data to collect that, that helps inform the process so we know whether mining is going to occur. And while the Surface Mining Act allows people to mine through streams, what we are creating is a standard in there that they need to gather that baseline on the water quality, the quantity, and the aquatic community, the critters living in that stream, to be able to make a determination, can they restore that? And then proposing in our rule that they restore the ecological and geologic function and the hydrologic function of that stream. Let them make the business decision, can they do that? Some streams can be rebuilt and repaired, some cannot. And if you cannot do it, the law says the permit should not be issued for it.
In the 111th Congress, Senator Alexander and I introduced the Appalachia Restoration Act. It was an effort to get a real handle on mountaintop removal, recognizing the devastating impact that mountaintop removal coal operations have on our environment. Not only destroys streams, it destroys landscape, it destroys forever. That legislation was not enacted, but as a result of that legislation, the administration took certain actions to control mountaintop removal coal operations. Could you explain what actions you will be taking in this regulation, or how it will affect mountaintop removal? And there are many people who would like to see this practice totally eliminated, including myself. I understand that you're not taking that tack. Could you just explain to us where we are on mountaintop removal?
Yes, Senator. Thank you for that question. The statute allows mountaintop removal mining and allows sets certain provisions for when it can be conducted. We are proposing to change our rules to incorporate those statutory provisions into that provision as well, also requiring that the excess spoil be put back and that the land be restored to approximate original contour. As mentioned, that means put the mountain back when it's done, and changing the bonding requirements so that if the operator has an approved post-mining land use, which the law allows, but they don't implement it, then there's enough bond there to put the mountain back. And as well as the practice of it is by protecting those downstreams and finding out what kind of resources and stuff are living in the streams, having that the baseline to monitor to make sure that if they're creating those valley fills, they're not creating pollution, because we need to know what's in the stream. Because frankly, I know a lot of people don't want to hear it, but the days of blind mining are over. We need to put an end to that. We need to get the baseline data, figure out what's there, measure the operation standards against that to make sure that we are not creating more Flint rivers.
Well, I appreciate that, and I obviously there are challenges in our political system. We understand that, but the American people understand the importance of the work that you're doing, and we thank you very much for your service.